boys and girls. I'm your teacher, Ms. Shamshideen. On this session of the Literacy Ladder, we would be doing some more work on making inference. Remember, it is important not only to be able to read, but to ensure that we understand the information that was in the text. Let's recap what we have covered so far on making inferences. We discussed that the word inference means something that is probably true. We also said that in order to make an inference, we must read the text carefully, use the information from what we've read, and those information becomes our clues. Then we combine those clues with any background knowledge about what we've read, and then we form an idea or say what we think is probably true. Let's look back at the steps we should go through when making an inference. We first look for the clues from the text or even a picture. Think about what you already know about those clues. Then we form an idea or make a statement about what we think is true. We also learn that making inferences helps us to connect more to the passage. We discover hidden meaning when we use those clues. Finding hidden meanings say that we are reading between the lines, or simply stating facts or information that were not stated directly in the text, or we did not see directly in the pictures. Let's look back at this short text that we covered in our last lesson on making inference. Mandy rushed home from school and headed straight to the kitchen. As she walked over to the cookie jar, her eyes grew wide open. It was all gone. As she looked around, she saw bits and pieces on the floor. She followed the trail, which led her to the living room. "Oh no!" she shouted. Jake was sitting with crumbs all over his face. He looked at her and smiled. Now you take a few seconds just to recap that passage. Can you remember some of the things we infer? Yes, we infer that Mandy was hungry. Why did we make such an inference? Can you remember? Did anywhere in the passage say directly that Mandy was hungry? No, but the passage said, Mandy rushed home from school and headed straight to the kitchen. She walked over to the cookie jar. Now we know that the kitchen is where we would most likely find food to eat, and children generally love eating cookies. What else did we infer? Well, we read that Mandy found an empty jar. Yikes! What happened to the cookies? Let's see what we inferred. We inferred that her brother Jake ate the cookies. But did we read that in the passage? No, we didn't. So why would we blame poor Jake? Let's look at the clues. It says, she saw bits and pieces on the floor. She followed the trail, which led her to the living room. Jake was sitting with crumbs all over his face. Oh my goodness, there we have it. So we know that cookies or food baked with flour might leave crumbs. The point that the crumbs were not only just on the floor, but they were all over Jake's face. It definitely had to be him. So the crumbs were left on his face, maybe because of how he ate the cookies. And then he did not wash his hands and face after he ate the cookies. Poor Mandy was really hungry, but Jake ate all of them. Now you made really great detectives in the last lesson. So let's try to make some more inferences. Are you ready? Now, this short passage that we will look at was taken from the Rainbow Reader Book 5, Chanticleer and the Fox. So, if you have the book, I'm not saying that you have to get it. If you do have it, you could always go and read the entire story for yourself. Once upon a time, there was a poor widow who lived in a small cottage near the woods. The widow heard an uproar and terrible clamor raised by the hens. Dogs and men set out in pursuit of the fox. Now that's just a short clipping. Now, what inference can we make about what was happening? Were the hens playing? Were the hens fighting each other? Were the hens being attacked? And what inference can we make about where the fox was or where he was heading? Was he in the pen? Was he in the widow's house? Or was he running towards the woods? Let's find those clues. The widow heard the uproar and terrible clamor raised by the hens. Now, if you hear loud noise and terrible clamor, what would you say is happening? Would you say it's something good? Or maybe there is a fight or something? Or even someone or something being attacked? Now, from that clue, we can make the inference that something was attacking the hens, don't you think? The next part said, dogs and men set out in pursuit of the fox. Now, what does the word pursuit mean? Take some time and check it out. But it said, dogs and men set out in pursuit of the fox. If you know anything about the woods, animals on a farm, and creatures such as the fox, we will know that fox lives in the woods, and they usually hunt small animals for food. So we can infer or make an inference that the fox attacked the animals on the farm. He maybe captured one of them and was running back to the woods. Did you use those clues? Or were you even able to make those inferences? Let's read our text again. Once upon a time, there was a poor widow who lived in a small cottage near the woods. The widow heard an uproar and terrible clamor raised by the hens. Dogs and men set out in pursuit of the fox. What inferences did we make? 1. The animals, or maybe one of the animals, was being attacked. We also inferred that the fox captured one of them and ran into the woods. Here we have another short passage. Avery watched as her new next-door neighbor moved in. She observed a tall man carrying a bicycle and a kayak into the garage. She also saw a young woman carrying a surfboard through the front door. Let's read that passage again. Avery watched as her new next-door neighbors moved in. She observed a tall man carrying a bicycle and a kayak into the garage. She also saw a young woman carrying a surfboard through the front door. Now, from all that Avery noticed, what can we infer? And here I have some suggestions. Was it that her new neighbors are elderly people? Did her new neighbors have several children? Did her new neighbors like to spend time outdoors? Or were her new neighbors kind and generous? What could we infer about the neighbors from what Avery would have noticed? I hope you're thinking. If we look back at the passage, we would have read that she observed a tall man carrying a bicycle and a kayak. She also saw a young woman carrying a surfboard. What do we know about a bicycle and a kayak and a surfboard? Well, if we would have been very adventurous or even looking at movies and so on, we know that these are all used outdoors for physical activities. So what inference can we make? Were her new neighbors elderly people? I don't think so. Did her new neighbors have several children? I didn't see any clues to indicate children. Did her new neighbors like to spend time outdoors? Well, if you read carefully, the bicycle, the kayak, and the surfboard are all usually used outdoors. Or were her new neighbors kind and generous? But there was nothing there where we saw an interaction between Avery and her neighbors. So the best inference that we can make is that her new neighbors like to spend time outdoors. Let's read the text one last time. Avery watched as her new next-door neighbors moved in. She observed a tall man carrying a bicycle and a kayak into the garage. She also saw a young woman carrying a surfboard through the front door. What inference did we make? Her new neighbors like to spend time outdoor. Now, remember, when we are making inferences, we look for clues. We then think about what we already know about those clue words or the sentence that we would have taken as a clue. When we would have done that, we then form an idea or we make a statement about what we think is probably true. And that's all for today. I hope that you enjoyed reading those short passages. I also hope that you had fun looking for clues and making inferences. Continue to be good and stay safe. See you next time.